Now. Hello, welcome back to the Authenticity Calling podcast. I am your host, Relitza Spasova, and I am joined here by my amazing friend, someone who I met synchronistically. Actually, I'm trying to think back to how we met, but this is Christabelle Joseph. I'll let her introduce herself. I know exactly how we met. It was love at first sight.
Literally.
How could I forget? Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
Christabelle, please tell us how you do, what you do, who you are, what you stand for, all the beautiful and amazing things about you.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for having me on. I'm so grateful and appreciative of you and your powerhouse and your fire and your soul and actually hosting this incredible podcast. So I appreciate you so much for having me on. Yes, my name is Christabelle Joseph. I am a speaker. I'm an accountability coach, and I help new entrepreneurs get to six-figure businesses. So I really try to allow new entrepreneurs step the scale of finding their purpose and their vision and really stepping into their passion and dropping out of societal conditioning. That's something that's super passionate to me because I believe that we're all creators and innovators, and we're here to be original and be authentically ourselves and not work 9 to 5.
Yes. Yes.
Really helping people, get into that space and have a world of support to really help them. And that's something that I've been really devoted to lately. I think that, creating my community of the HyperFormers and everything that I'm doing with that has been something that's truly just been my spark every single day. And it's everything I could have imagined and more.
I love that. Yeah, I'm totally getting the truth chills as you're speaking, which to me, so I do very similar work, which is why we connect so well in that, reminding people of their greatness and who they are and who they came here to be and how they came here to be. So that just lights me up so much hearing your passion and your commitment and your dedication to this space. Accountability is so, so, so important to get us moving because we all have amazing ideas. We wake up inspired with all these callings. I call them callings. That's why the podcast is called Authenticity Calling, is because there's something in you. There's a fire in you. But so many of us, we get along our daily routine, as you said, societal conditioning, got to get the kids to school, got to get the work done, got to do this, got to do that. And then by the time we do all the things, we forget who we are and why we came here. And so authenticity calling for me is super important to reinvigorate, to re-inspire that flame so that it can actually burn and create what we're here to do. And I just love and appreciate how passionate you are. The fact that you bring people together. I call them spirit tribe. You're HyperFormers. Please tell me more. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, girl. It has been like a journey. It has been so much excitement and flair and fire in this group, in this community that I'm building. And like, I cannot wait for you to, be introduced to them as well. And hopefully you can come to my events coming up in December too. But it's been something that I've been building consciously. And it's been something that has fallen into place just so beautifully without me having to put in this like pressure or intensity. It's just been becoming this aura of what I wanted and having the right people come into that space and get that energy from it. And so it's been just entrepreneurs, people in my life that are either new into the space or wanting to build something or just, struggling with the networking aspect or struggling with their offer and maybe have had a business for quite some time now, right? And just stepping into like a new space of support where it's, again, like you mentioned, we're all creatives. We have this inspiration within us that gives us these callings and these ideas and these downloads every day. And I wake up and I'm just like, okay, I want to do all these things, but what do I actually need to do now? Right. Yes. And that's been like the biggest thing where a lot of entrepreneurs, we get stuck in shiny object syndrome and all these exciting things where, we'll have like this passionate conversation. Like I remember even the first time we were talking, we were like, retreats, like wellness retreats and all this stuff. And I was like, yes, but like, not right now, but like later, like, So it's figuring out the plan and the timeline to understand like, okay, what is the end goal? And I think for both of us, it's an alignment where we do want to facilitate and host wellness retreats. And that is something that is our calling and that we're super deeply invested in for sure. But for the right now, it's like, okay, we need to complete this and then utilize the skill sets and the resources and connections that we build through this beautiful process to then get to that next level. And a lot of entrepreneurs need that kind of guidance or almost that mentor to like help them, you know, not make those mistakes of playing with that energy. Our energy is so sacred and it's so beautiful and so powerful. And when it's going in a million different directions, it's near impossible to complete the one thing. And that's why a lot of entrepreneurs fail because they get stuck in the, oh, like, I want to do this. Oh, it didn't work. But then it's like, they didn't try it, you know, enough, or it just wasn't, it was like roadblock after roadblock. And they didn't have the resources, the connections. Right. So it's building a platform where they're able to, you know, experience other people that also have gone through what they're going through, have maybe gone like further than them. And so they can see the possibility and they can see the awareness of like, oh, wait, this is possible. And it's not something that's so left field, like out of the blue. Right. And so a lot of the time, like it's giving them that dream and that hope and the possibilities of like, this is possible. Like you can do this. It's not something that's, you know, completely array. Right. So I think that's the most important thing, is really allowing people to give them permission to step into their power.
That's amazing. That permission, it's so funny. I have permission slips literally for my clients. I pull a permission slip for people because people need permission to get out of their own way and to just do the thing. So I love that you said permission slips. And the other thing is like, I feel like it's really powerful to highlight the importance of groupthink and highlighting that, you know, you don't have to struggle through something that somebody else, every entrepreneur has been through. You don't have to do it alone. Accountability is everything. And I really appreciate the power of that community coming together to support one another. And that's exactly what masterminds are all about. That's exactly what I do in my corporate work. I support the healthcare transformation. No one individual person alone can transform the healthcare system. I sit at tables with 10 to 20 people coming from all the different places in healthcare to do the groupthink, to inspire and to first create the vision, which most people have no idea where to even start on creating their vision. And that is the most important thing to actually become the thing that is calling you. So really giving space and time and patience and permission to fully own the vision. And I always like to remind people, if you have it in your mind, even jealousy, we had a conversation about jealousy yesterday with one of my really good friends. And I said, jealousy is just your intuition knowing that that thing is for you, but then your ego, your mind saying, I can't have it. And the truth is, any form of jealousy, envy, any of that, it really is just inspiration hiding behind fear. And so being able to fully claim that calling, to claim the vision, to recognize that there is nothing that's too big for us. If you can see it, it is for you. And to hold somebody in their greatness, to support them, to claim that and to actualize it. And you're doing it with a strategy. Like that is everything. Everything. Yeah.
That hits like literally you wouldn't have been given the vision if it wasn't for you.
That's
like,
it.
Yes, that's literally it.
That's it. It's that simple. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. And it's, exactly everything that you said. Like that is, and I'm so glad that you're doing that with the masterminds. And yes, you're so right. The group, that camaraderie, that literal like community where it's like, hey, we got you, you know, and there's no ego. Like, yes, like there's two hosts, it's myself and Denver, my business partner. And that was our first rule. We're like, guys, like there's zero ego here, you know, like we're all for everyone, you know, unleashing their own knowledge because we only know what we know. And we know there's so much more out there. There's so much information. And so like, if we close that door, we're actually we're dishonoring what the space is supposed to be. Right. And we're all here to learn. Like I learned something new every single day. And I think that's also what that spark is, right? It's holding space, holding a container for growth.
Yes.
What it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Inspiring curiosity, I feel like, is the most important thing. I used to be a teacher, and I always wonder when my son comes home and he talks about school and he talks about certain things, and I'm like, but your teacher's job is to inspire your curiosity, to want to learn, not to put more roadblocks in your way of how you're meant to be doing some things. It's like, that's not the point of a teacher. It's to inspire the learning. So I feel like that's so important to remember in life, that we're constantly learning. We are constantly engaging with our world, engaging with the people around us, in order to be able to support each other, to learn from each other. And what I like to remind people, to me, in my community, in my life, there is no such thing as competition. When you rise, I rise, we all rise. Like there's never that space where you need to ever be afraid to say something, because you might fear that like someone else is going to take, like, that doesn't exist in the conscious community.
Exactly. Because we're so authentic and nobody is exactly like us. We are so original that my idea is someone can take it and run with it. And I still know that it's not going to be how I would do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just completely not. And like, I think that's like what scares so many people. It's almost that scarcity mindset, right? Of competition. And especially like, I don't want to just call out Vancouver, but like collaboration is such a beautiful thing, you know, when we're building on with each other. Like I made this quote, which I love. And it's like, it's not lonely at the top when you bring everyone up with you.
That's it. I love that.
It's like, you know, everyone talks about entrepreneurship, and yes, it's lonely because we're doing our own thing. But at the same time, it's when you actually have those resources, and like you were saying, like our spirit tribe, right? Like this is soul fam. Like I've like found my soul fam, and I'm like, yo, like this is what I was talking about. Like I want to have these in depth, like I'm talking deep. Like I thought I was already deep, and then I literally had like readings done a couple weeks ago, did like some really inner core work. And I'm like, wow, there is a whole other layer of depth. And I know that that's like still not even all of it. And I'm like, whoo, baby, like talk about surface level. Like I'm so far under surface level that I'm like, it's just raw. It's just raw. And it's so beautiful, man. Life. Oh my gosh.
So good. So juicy. It gets to be so juicy when we tap in. That's what I say it all the time. Tap into yourself, tap into your truth, tap into your gifts. When you start to speak your truth, it starts with one truth at a time. As soon as you start to speak your truth and you start to honor yourself, even just today, I was inspired to write about like, look yourself in the mirror and thank yourself for showing up for you, because you're the one that was there from day one, and you're going to be the one that's there taking your last breath. And we don't take the time to appreciate ourselves. And it is so powerful because there are so many different parts of us, right? But to come together and to do the thing and to really passionately be committed to what we're here to do, like that to me is everything. And those inspirations, they turn into synchronicity. And like Deepak Chopra calls it synchrodestiny, which is you wake up and you go, you just show up. You don't have to plan it.
You just are. You just are. Exactly. And like the messages from every single person, what you're decoding every single minute of every second is like, oh, I see exactly why I was meant to be at this position. Like I'm here to be and living like out that service. And like you mentioned something earlier, sorry, I keep jumping. Oh my gosh. But you mentioned something earlier about how you were talking about jealousy and envy, and how that was on the other side of it. The golden nugget is the inspiration, right? It's just our ego that kind of takes over. So did we talk about gene keys last time?
Let's talk about them now. I would love for you to give a background for anybody that's listening that doesn't know about gene keys. And I would love to hear any wisdom you have on that. Yeah.
Okay. So gene keys is literally our DNA, and it's our genes, and it's a reading that gets done. So you go to like a spirit guide basically, and someone will go into, it's a website. It's by, oh my gosh, Richard Rudd. And he's incredible. Like the way that he has dissected everything, it is with the cosmos, it is with, you know, this world. It's also with like your genetics and your actual physical DNA. So your gene keys are going to be completely different than anybody else on this planet. Nobody will ever have the same gene key pattern as you. So it's so in depth, and it goes into like, oh, this is what you were born with. This is what's blocking you from all of your different like life's work, your purpose, all of these different things in the spectrum. So you can get the reading done to actually show you what your shadow self is and what the gift is and what the siddhi is, which is the ascension. So it shows
Interesting.
you like where that like core kind of wound is stuck in and what's blocking you from your life's work. And then it shows you like what the repressive symptom is and what the reactive symptom is. So it's like, oh yeah, like you do this. So it calls you out, basically. It calls you out on your bullshit.
That's
But it
amazing.
also allows you to own it and to be aware of it and to actually, you know, transition it and transform it into the gift. So when you can see that, you're like, okay, so some parts of me, I am living in my gift and I love it and it's beautiful and I can see it's so true. And then there's other parts where I'm like, ooh, yeah, I'm in my shadow.
Yeah, really playing small. Yeah.
Really, yeah. And so it's interesting to see because there was like, it did say it was, one big thing for me, one of my shadows is immaturity.
Okay.
Immaturity, and not in a sense of I'm immature and I'm not grown or whatever it is, but immature in the sense that completion. So how we were talking
Mm.
about jumping around different
Mhm,
ideas and all that
mhm,
stuff and getting
mhm,
excited, which is very me, is never completing anything. And
mm,
so the obviously the gift with that is maturity and seeing things through and getting to the other side, right? So
mhm.
I can see that more and more now. And before I even got my reading done, I was having this exact conversation with my business partner, and I was like, there's a lot of beautiful things that are coming into play right now for
Mhm,
me. And
mhm,
I have, you know, I've had to have my idea bank, and I've had to have
mhm,
something that's there where I'm like, okay, I can sit in my intuition. I can sit in my intuition. I can see that this is where I'm feeling called for sure, because
mhm,
I know that this is going to be something that I'm going to make an impact in later.
mhm,
But for right now, this is the space that I'm facilitating, and I need to see this through because these are, you
mhm,
know, the people that are a part of this, the people that are growing in this. And
mhm.
for me, like I've always had that almost like addiction to stimulation, you know, like one
Mhm.
of those like very like loves excitement, loves new
Totally.
things, hates being bored. Like in every
Totally.
job I've had, I was like, oh, like I'm over it. Like I need something new. If I'm not growing, like I'm out. Like I literally would only last like 6 months to a year in every job because I would hit the peak and I'd be like, I want to go past that. Like I want to grow. I want to do more. And if they didn't give me that opportunity, I would just leave
Yeah.
instead of just, you know, being in that spot. But I have this in me where it's a need to grow. It's a need to
Yes.
evolve. Like evolution is my my second nature. Like that is
Yes.
something that is like in the gene keys that says it's like, yes, like you're here to grow, you're here to adapt, but
Mhm,
it's also it's a paradox. So
mhm.
it's to sit with both of them, because one of them you're both. You love change, but it's
Yes.
also uncomfortable for you.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the unease, but if you've actually everything about me is like sitting in my intuition. It's
Yeah.
literally my intuition.
Yeah.
So everything in my gene keys was telling me that actually, yes, it's great that you listen to, you know, the world and, you know, people, your business partners and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you're calling the shots, and you need to
Mhm.
really sit into your intuition
Mm.
and like feel that, because your superpower is energy, like you're an energy
Mm.
feeler. And I was
That's
like,
it.
oh damn,
Yes, yes, I totally
okay.
see that. So that's really, really interesting. That so I have a few questions, but just a little like nugget that came through, a little download that came through is in our divine feminine. We when we embody that divine feminine, when we really honor our intuition, the visions that come through, they don't have a timeline. They're purpose driven visions. These are things that we're meant to accomplish. And it might be in 20 years from now, it might be in the end of this lifetime, it might be a vision from a previous lifetime that we're supposed to circle back to. And so I always try to remind everybody, you know, to think of these visions as like a parking lot, and you can only drive one car at a time. It's like your garage. So you have to choose one, but be committed and dedicated to actually taking it on the full road trip and coming to circle back to pick up your other car, not leaving it halfway along the journey, getting distracted and, you know, getting into someone else's plane. And that's basically what we do our whole lives. We get distracted and we're driving other people's vehicles. We're being driven by other people's vehicles. We're passengers in someone else's journey. And that's not serving ourselves. That's not serving the world. That's not serving our purpose. And we're going to come back, and we're going to come back more stuck because we're not actually consciously aware of our own gifts, and we're not honoring those gifts. So it's like you have a whole, like we all have a garage full of different visions that were meant to drive forward and come to completion in this lifetime. And so to me, that those are those purposes. You know, I always say passion, purpose, potential. That's the P3 alchemy method. You first start to follow what alivens you, that passion. It's like that universal gift of energy that shows that you're in alignment with your calling, and that will give you the energy. And there's so many people talking about, you know, chronic fatigue syndrome and, you know, not feeling healthy, not feeling that vitality. And it's like, well, that's because you've forgotten who you are. You're not living
you're not living your dharma.
You're not living your dharma.
Yeah, you have no idea. And everyone is exactly like you said, in somebody else's car. They're taking the passenger seat in their life because they're following. They're not actually going with anything for themselves, you know? Like, when was the last time you asked yourself, like, do you enjoy doing what you're doing? Like, you know, like literally, I have this conversation with myself like every day, because I'm like, if it's not a hell yeah, I'm not doing it. Like, absolutely, you can't get me to do something anymore if I'm like half-assing it, or if I'm half in, because I know that that's not going to be pleasant for anybody involved, you know? Like, why would I do something that I'm not excited about and so fired up about, you know?
That's it.
Whether it's a podcast, or it's, you know, like an event, or it's a meeting with someone, especially if it's a meeting with someone, I had to really have that conversation with myself, because I was like, oh, like, this person's very like the followers or whatever it is and all this stuff. But then it's like, how does that person make me feel? Right. And like really stepping into that, okay, this person makes me feel like a little like my intuition's like going off a little bit. Like, I don't know if this is like a right call, you know, I don't know if this is going to provide the value that I actually want out of it. But it's like, it's also like having that openness and being able to kind of see, like, even if it's like a feeling that's like, okay, maybe like, as long as it's not a threat, like, okay, like meet people, right? Of course, like I'm a networker, I'm a connector, but there's also like the other side where it's like, what can I do in this situation to be as valuable as possible for this person in this state, right? And so it's like, okay, even if I can go in and I know it might be a little bit lower density, and just like be able to raise my frequency so that at least I can provide that space for them to feel the opportunities that are present, you know, and to step into it themselves.
That's it. I love that. I love that you said that, because it's so common to, and you know, I hear this all the time. Oh, I'm an empath. And the excuse basically becomes, I'm an empath, therefore I get drawn to the level of the frequency with which the other person brings. But that's actually not what happens. It's empath. My mentor coach described it like this. Alyssa Nobriga, she founded the Institute for Coaching Mastery. She's a brilliant human being. She's so powerful in the space that she creates, and really truly holds that greatness. That's exactly what it is. You step into a room to elevate everybody, and that is your service in the world. And so when we're able to maintain our energy, but it always comes back and starts with us, if we're able to lift our energy and remember that we are in the room to elevate everyone's energy, not to fall down to the lowest energy, because that's a tendency of a lot of light workers, is to meet people where they're at, which is, yes, it's good for them to be seen, but then seen in their greatness, elevated to that possibility. And
exactly.
So it's so beautiful that what you say about checking in with yourself. So let's go back to Gene Keys. First of all, I have a question about Gene Keys, about because I know you said that some of the things that came up, you already knew about yourself, just in being more self-aware, just being more conscious. looking at the patterns, looking at your world, trusting the universe, and really
Mhm.
recognizing when the universe brings
Totally.
you gifts. What was
Mhm.
that extra push that you feel Gene Keys really gave you that you couldn't maybe find yourself, or maybe with like a transformational coach? Or I'm just curious about
Totally.
that.
Yeah. So like, of course, like, like I have been seeing two different coaches right now. And they're both in the spiritual space, and I have been able to transform a lot, and I have been able to go deep. So it was interesting because his work, actually, I'm going to call him out because he's amazing. Alan Phillips. He's my coach, and he's been literally just God sent. Like, I cannot explain him any other way. He is incredible in his teachings. He is just so powerful, so present, absolutely just knocked it out of the park. 2 months, like, completely changed my entire life. Like 10 years of therapy in 2 months is how I would describe him.
Wow.
Like, just so good. And was able to really transform a lot of the shadow working with him. And it was really cool to be more aware of, like, okay, not wanting to react to situations right away, and just, being able to really sit and like integrate the lessons, and, having to go through a really tough like heartbreak, and was able to actually alchemize that and feel it in 12 hours and not actually allow it to like affect my day. Like, that to me was like the biggest, like, whoa, what just happened? Like, a year ago, 2 years ago, like, it took me like, however long to get over my ex. And like, it was just so interesting to see like how much I thought this heartbreak was going to actually like break me, and how I was able to actually alchemize it and transform the energy into the beauty that it was.
Yes.
And it was such an incredible moment. And going back to Gene Keys, it did show me, the reading was a Venus sequence. So there's your activation sequence. That's the starting of it. So it shows you like your life's work, your purpose, all these kinds of things. And then it goes into the Venus sequence, which is purpose to vocation.
Mm.
So it kind of takes you down your karmic relational journey. So
Mm.
why you kind of attract certain things into your life,
Mm.
and what those like lessons actually are. And it actually really changed my entire perspective on relationships. The
Mm.
Gene Keys really showed me that every relationship I'm actually drawing in is a karmic relationship,
That's right.
and it can turn to dharma. But it's all to teach you something and amplify something that's, that mirror, right? And if you're not ready to face it, then that's when, you get kind of wound up in like your core wounds and all that kind of
There
stuff,
you
and
go.
the
Yeah.
odds and everything. And you're just like,
Totally.
what is happening? Like, get me out
Yes.
of this toxic relationship. But it's like,
Yes.
it's really just a reflection of, that hurt inner child, or that core wound that you just have not dealt with. Right. And there's a lot that's always going to be surfacing. And I think like, it was interesting because in my Gene Key says I thrive best in relationships. And that's probably because I have the most intense like relationships that really show me what my core wounds are. And when I recall or regain back that energy. So what it really did was it showed me that I have this hunger. It's almost like a primal hunger, I would say. A lot of my Gene Keys showed me that there's this hunger, but there's also this like this power and intensity with it. So
Mm.
it's not just I want a little piece, I want all of it.
Yes.
So, and you can
What's
see
the
that in
hunger
my
for?
work. It can be for anything, right?
Okay.
So like it said like greed, like money, but it also
Mm.
was like talking about how this is my ambition. Like
Mm.
this is
That's it.
how, like, you can tell when I do my work, like
Mm.
I'm all in, like
Yeah.
I'm hungry for being of service, like
Yes.
there's like that hunger can lead to so many different things, but it's at the
Yes.
same time, it's greed for like, for that love, for that attention, like, whatever was missing when I was, my childhood. Right. So
Yes.
it was interesting to be able to kind of transform that core wound of mine. And what needed to go was that relationship, was all of these things that I was attaching myself to.
Yeah.
And by doing so, I was recalling back a lot of my energy that was stuck. And I actually I'm going to share this because it's so beautiful. I actually do this prayer now every morning. And I I do like a breath work. I get into like my higher frequency, my higher self, and I call upon Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel, and I call them to ascend upon me. And I do a cord cutting, and I say, please cut all cords that are from any timeline, any person, any thought, any place that is not in alignment with my highest self. And I say that about 3 times, and I kind of like put this like bowl or circle around me and just ask for that protection. And then I say, I recall back all of my energy. And you can tell by the 3rd time you say that, like you can feel that energy coming back to you from whatever events you were at, or, you know, different interactions with people. And it's just like all of those like cords like are just like cut. And it's like it's so rejuvenating of being able to take back what's yours, you know, it's nobody else's. Like, and, you know, going back to what you were saying about being an empath, like there's a difference between empathy and compassion, right? Yeah. And it's so important to know the difference, because I used to be like, oh, like I just gave so much love. No, baby girl, you don't give love. You be
you
love.
Are love.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, that's so juicy.
So good.
So good. So thank you for sharing that. And that, first of all, Gabriel and Michael. So Gabriel's my son and Michael's my toxic ex, which was my like super karmic relationship. So it's real. That's why I smiled for a second. I was like, of course. But I've heard that before. So that's really, it's such a beautiful piece to remember that it's within our power and our control to call back. And we give away our energies left, right, and center. And especially when we're in service, and we don't have to give ourselves away. We get to show up. We get to serve, we get to be that love, and still maintain, still protect. It is our responsibility to do our energetic work. It's our responsibility to protect ourselves, to call that energy back for the greatest good of all concerned. Because if somebody is attached to our energy, that's codependency. That's not them creating the power from themselves. Sure, it's great to be an inspiration. It's great to show someone. For me personally, I see people in their essence. I can't help it. That's why I'm a life alchemist, right? That's the whole point. You said alchemizing so many times, and I just love and value and appreciate it so much that we are all life alchemists. We are all master manifestors. We do this thing all the time. However, many people do it unconsciously. And so instead of living out of our essence, what's possible and what our higher self, as you said, our higher calling is, we live out of the fear, out of last night's news, out of our best friends complaining about their partners. We start to create all these layers and shadows that we then go, as you said, that inner child work, we go back and live in that pain instead of taking that pain and transforming it into the gift, into the stepping stones towards our greatness. And that is so powerful. Yeah.
So juicy. So good. I'm like, yummy.
That's it. Life gets to be juicy.
Exactly. Like it is just the yumminess of like life, you know, and it's just like really just being, you know, being as present as possible and allowing yourself to really be a vessel, you know, to be that vessel, to allow the world to create through you, you know. That's this is actually super key. Like Alan, man, I tell you, Alan, he is like, changed so much, changed the game. So every day now, every time I'm having any kind of interaction or any event that goes on in my day, a big thing that he taught me to kind of go off of, other than like a million things that he's taught me, but a really big impactful thing was to ask, what can I give? What does this person need to receive? And ask that question first. So in my accountability cohorts, like what do they need to receive? Okay, they need to feel empowered. They need to have some resources, get some connections, you know, they need to feel heard, right? So all these things. And it's like, okay, then how can I show up to make sure that that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I need to show up being completely present. Okay, so I need to show up with knowledge. Okay, with experience. Okay, cool. So you know what? This person was having this problem. Okay, so I'm going to actually listen to this podcast about that. Like little things where
Mm-hmm.
you're able to show up so that they receive everything that you have. So you're just being of service.
Mm-hmm.
You just get to be of service because you're not like, oh, you know what? I've got this today. I'm going to bring in my leadership qualities. That's what's going to happen. Right. Yeah. But then it's like, well, you don't know what they need yet. Right. So it's flipping it around where it's like, okay, what did they need to receive right now? Yes. Okay, this. Okay, so how can I show up so that they get this, right? So it changes everything. Your entire, I love and that. Way more purposeful. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Way more intentional. Yes. Way more intentional.
Yeah. Yeah. When you show up to be in service and you're open to receiving, that's the thing. And I feel like we as a society have forgotten or maybe never have been taught how to receive, because I just listened to a podcast on conscious parenting, and this is what I do with my masterminds. Mostly it's tapping into that, we call it feminine. The doing is the masculine and the feminine is the being, right? And so it's this sense of, and people get triggered around masculine and feminine all the time. It's not about gender. It's not about sexual orientation. It's not about
energy.
It's the energy. And we have both. We all have both.
We need to integrate both.
We have
to.
And so strategy is so important. But if you are creating strategy without that intuition, then what are you creating strategy around? Like, what is your guiding light?
What are your guiding principles? Literally, what is that like core foundation?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah. So strategy is so important for safety. Yes. Because we can't just be all in our being and our feminine and not have strategy. But without that energy of being and presence, and like you said, being the vessel to receive what the universe wants from us, it's so much more powerful, because it doesn't mean anything about me. If I say something and it doesn't land, that doesn't mean anything about me.
That doesn't undervalue my service at all.
That's it.
100%.
I'm just a tiny little ant, right?
Yeah,
like I'm a drop in the ocean. So for me, I don't take anything personally, because I know. And when I think about it, like when I was little, I used to watch Touched by an Angel. It used to come on TV.
I love that show.
Such a good show.
Gosh, such a good show.
Part of me really heard the calling. Like that was the first time I was like, you're going to be in situations where you are that wisdom and you just do the thing. Yeah. And I used to think small, of course. Who am I to have a gift for anybody else? But I am me. I am Relitza Special.
Literally, yes, queen. Yes, here. Let's go.
To be that unconditional love, that support, to see you in your greatness, to call you forward. Like that is such a gift. And for me not to claim it.
Seriously. Right?
How?
Like, what is the point? How? Yeah,
God, he didn't make it perfect, or she didn't make
for real.
Embodied. We'll claim it all. So
100%. Oh
that's
my gosh,
the beauty of just showing up. Yes. Showing up, receiving, doing the thing. You get to just show up. It gets to be easeful. It gets to be juicy. It gets to be so connected and
you feel so fulfilled. Like there's nothing else you're attaching to, know? And like this actually has happened like a lot recently, where like I'll go and I'll hang out with someone and I'm just like, and suddenly it will just take a turn where like they're, and I think a big thing about me is I really enjoy creating a safe space.
Yes.
And where people, they just tend to trust me with, different things. And so I love that. I love being that space for people where I do get to, kind of come at it from that empowering stance where I'm like, hey, like, have you tried this? Or like giving them some kind of tool or resource that I know will actually benefit them for what they're dealing with in that exact moment. And like actually doing it with them, like, and just being like, like I could do a breathwork right now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, let me walk you through a little bit to actually get into your heart and help you feel a little bit, and like, what is that? What am I going to miss out on in my life? Like that is my call. Like, I feel so good when I'm able to see like receiving those messages or whatever it is of like people be like, Christabelle, like, you have no idea how much, like, like you sent this to me a couple of weeks ago and I wasn't ready to receive it then, and it's just
That's
like, I
it.
know it's planting the seeds. That's all we are here to do, is plant the seeds. And like, there's this quote, like, you can't do things for them, right? And there's this story. Alan shared this with me, and like, I know I keep calling him out, but he's just incredible. But he was talking to me because I was like, man, like, I'm in this space. My heart is so open. I'm feeling a lot. And I just, like, I was getting to that point where I was like, I can feel so much of the pain in this world. Like, I'm feeling
Yes.
everything, like all like the wars and everything. Like, it's a lot. It's intense. Like, I'm feeling that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, like, I'm like, almost like, I don't want it. Like, I'm not like, make it stop, but I'm just like, because my heart is so open, I'm like, I haven't really learned yet to channel that yet, or protect that
Mhm.
yet. And so like, over the past, like, as I'm integrating these lessons, I've been learning more and more, like, okay, like, this is not my energy. This is not my energy. It's there,
Mhm.
it's energy,
That's
but
it.
I can choose when I want to feel.
Yes.
And it's the empowering the people, right? And like, being able to, even in the cohorts, it's like, if I make myself available all the time, they're not going to get empowered. If I'm doing everything with them all the time, they're not going to be able to do it on their own, right? And so
Mhm.
Alan explained it in this most beautiful way. He's like, there was this kid, okay? He's about 5 years old. He's like in this classroom. They're seeing this butterfly coming out of the cocoon. And this kid, it's like, you can see this butterfly is struggling so much to get out of the cocoon. And he's like, oh, like, I have to help this poor butterfly get out of the cocoon. So he just breaks off just like a little piece of the cocoon, just to help the butterfly come through. The butterfly comes out and it's unable to spread all of its wings.
Mm.
And it falls to the floor, falls to the ground, because it wasn't able to utilize its strength to actually open it up itself. And so
Mm.
I was like, damn, like, okay, this hits. And
That's
like, it
it.
just makes so much sense, right? Like, we can handhold a little bit. It's almost like riding a bike. Like, I always kind of use that
Mm.
reference of just like, your parents are there for a little bit, but then, like, you got to do the thing. You got to ride the
That's
bike,
it. That's
right?
it.
Like, we're there to
Yeah.
support, and like, you're going to fall and crash a couple times, but like, that's how you're going to learn. And maybe we're like, have like, we're like your knee pads, we're still there to support in other ways, but you're gonna have to go through it, and you're gonna have to learn the lessons, and that's the beauty of it. And then at the end, you're gonna be like, man, like, I just rode my freaking bike. Like, you know
That's it. That is it. Yeah, you have to develop the muscles to push outside of your discomfort, and that is the growth. Absolutely. And having that mirror is so important to remind you you're just a butterfly opening up the cocoon. Keep going. You've got this. Like that. That is the reminder we
Mhm.
all need. A reminder of our greatness, knowing what's possible, knowing that saying yes is the most important thing we can do, showing up, doing the thing, being in service, being there, receiving the gifts, and just,
Mhm.
I'm so grateful
Right?
for you. I know you had, a little bit of time. I think we're at the top of that time. I want to thank you so much for everything you shared today. How can people find you? How can they work with you?
Thank you. Oh, it's been such a treat. Oh my gosh, like, we could talk forever.
Forever.
Um, yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Christabelle.Joseph. And yeah, like, HyperFormers, that's the website, hyperformers.co. If anyone is interested in, bridging more of their success and being surrounded around a community that's actually going to dive into strategy and finding your purpose and your vision and clarity and direction, and really being able to step into your truest power. If anyone is struggling with that, like, feel free to reach out to me. Everything is on the website. And yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting more with you, Relitza, obviously. And I know that we
Beautiful.
have so many little gems to give and so much to co-create together in this world. And I'm so excited to connect with you more, and to just be able to hold space for each other and really be that sister tribe. And I can totally feel like our energy being able to provide that for this world. So thank you
Absolutely.
so
Oh,
much.
so beautifully said. Thank you so much. You are such a gift. I will always be here to support you, yeah, just all of the things. It's so juicy. It gets to be juicy. Whoever's listening right now, find your spirit tribe. trust your calling, embody who you are and who you came here to be, because it gets to be so juicy, so good. Thank you, Christabelle, for everything that you do, for who you are and the way that you show up in this world. It is everything. Thank you.
Love. Thank you.
Love
I
so
received that.
Have a beautiful day, love. Thank you so
You
much.
too. Thank you so
Take care.
much. Bye.
I love